Russell Wilson's decision to not wear a wristband has gotten a lot of criticism, but perhaps no one was more pissed than his former coach, Pete Carroll. In some recent back-to-back interviews, both men exchanged blows against one another over the issue, and things are starting to take a turn for the worst. Funnily enough, most fans don't even know why quarterbacks wear a wristband. In this video, we'll be taking a look at all that and more. First up, why do quarterbacks even wear a wristband? A lot of NFL fans are still confused as to why quarterbacks even need to wear a wristband. Many assume that this was supposed to be some sort of visible indicator of a quarterback, but that's not true. In reality, they're called wrist coaches, and inside it is a flap that you can open to see a numbered list of all kinds of different plays. So basically, quarterbacks can read any of these formations out loud to alert some of their teammates. It's like having a little coach on your wrist, which is why it's called a wrist coach. This is important since quarterbacks don't really have the time to memorize each and every single play. Even if they know what each play means, they probably can't recall it at the top of their head, and that's something that can ruin an entire game. Opening up the wrist coach would just give them a quick reminder of what they meant to say. Analysts have referred to it as a cheat sheet of sorts, and many of the top head coaches in the NFL right now, Pete Carroll included, believe that it's an important playbook that every quarterback in the NFL absolutely needs to carry in every game. However, there are still more than a few quarterbacks that don't carry a wristband, and among them, the most notable name is Russell Wilson. Up next, why doesn't Russell Wilson wear a wristband? Russell Wilson has worn a wristband in numerous games in the past, but if you've noticed any of his recent games, the accessory has been absent from his wrist for quite a while now. Well, it all stems from a recent interview given by Pete Carroll regarding the success of Geno Smith as a quarterback for the Seahawks. Geno was officially Wilson's replacement, which is why it's easy to understand that there's some bad blood between the two. During the interview, Pete Carroll suggested that a lot of Smith's achievements came because of his use of the wrist coach. Carroll also added that certain players were reluctant to wear the wristband. While he didn't mention Russell Wilson by name, it was obvious who he was referring to. He implied that Wilson's refusal to wear the accessory may have cost the Seahawks some important games. Wilson hasn't outright said why he chose not to wear the wristband, considering it seems like a pretty important accessory, all things considered. It's assumed that the former Seahawks quarterback simply didn't think it was worth it, or maybe he thought he already knew all of the plays he wanted to make in a game. It seemed like Carroll was planning on putting the blame for previous losses all on Wilson with his comments. It wasn't exactly fair, and it's safe to say that not everyone was happy with his comments, including Russell Wilson. Coming up, how did Russell Wilson respond to Pete Carroll's comments? The former Seattle Seahawks quarterback did, in fact, hear his former coach's comments, and it's safe to say that he wasn't happy about what was said. In a press conference, Wilson was asked about how he felt about the whole situation. Wilson responded by completely brushing away Carroll's accusation that not wearing a wristband cost them games. He said that he has won a lot of games in the past both with the Seahawks and with the Broncos, and he didn't really wear a wristband in most of them. Even when he did wear it, he didn't always use it to call plays. He said that he didn't know that winning or losing all depended on a little wristband that practically every quarterback already wore. Overall, it's hard not to take Wilson's side on this one. Yes, a wristband might be pretty important, but at the same time, is it really more important than pure skill? It seems like Carroll was just sour on Wilson not being a part of the team anymore, and he just needed to say something to create drama between him and one of his former players.
I don't know exactly what he said, but I think, won a lot of games there without one on the wrist. And I didn't know winning or losing mattered if you wore a wristband or not. We do whatever it takes to make sure that we're rolling and moving and everything else. The few times I've definitely worn a wristband, depending on the game plan and what we have called and all that stuff. But yeah.
Next, Wilson seen wearing a wristband during practice. It seems like Russell Wilson didn't really think of Pete Carroll's comment as something offhand. He took it a bit personally, and at a recent practice session for the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson was actually seen wearing a wristband for the first time in forever. It was clearly done to send a message to Pete Carroll, although most of us aren't really too sure about what that message really was. But this raises some brand new questions. Did Wilson always wear a wristband during practice? Did he do this just out of spite for his former coach? Or are the Broncos coming up with new strategies? Of course, we won't know for sure until we see the Denver Broncos play again, but in all likelihood, it was probably just to take a pot shot at Pete Carroll. After all, there's no way this can all be just a coincidence. Wilson had to have had the comments fresh in his conscience. In either case, it seems like both sides have blown up the issue out of proportion. It was never a big deal for Wilson not to wear a wristband, but at the same time, Pete Carroll never even directly mentioned Wilson, so he shouldn't have been that defensive about the whole thing. Up next, Russell Wilson accused of using Seahawks audibles. Audibles have always always played a huge role in any NFL game, regardless of what team you're on, and it's part of the reason why the whole Russell Wilson wristband saga got so out of hand. A lot of teams have their own specific audibles that they're comfortable with, and it can get a bit tough for certain players to adjust to new teams because of that. Well, it seems like Russell Wilson is one of those players that's having a hard time adjusting to the audibles of the Denver Broncos. In a recent interview, former NFL lineman Tyler Columbus, who has played for both the Broncos and the Seahawks, claimed that Wilson is absolutely losing his mind on the field. He accused him of using his old Seahawks audibles instead of the Broncos ones, which obviously added to a lot of confusion during certain games. This is pretty bad, since any sort of confusion during a game can cause a team to completely fumble and lose it. A guy as experienced as Russell Wilson definitely shouldn't be making petty mistakes like this. Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett said he didn't really know of Wilson using the Seahawks audibles, but he didn't deny it either. He said that so far, Wilson has done everything the team has asked him to do, and because of that, he's happy to have him. Hackett probably didn't want to admit it because it's an embarrassing scenario for both him and his quarterback. They're both in their first year on the team, and with each given game, it seems like fans are getting more and more sick of both of them. And finally, Wilson acknowledges social media criticism surrounding his performance. So far during the current NFL season, the only thing Russell Wilson has brought to the table has been drama. He has had a historically bad season, and the fact that it's his first season with the Denver Broncos certainly doesn't help his case. Broncos fans have been particularly harsh on Wilson on social media. It seems like you can't scroll through Twitter without seeing someone point out just how bad Wilson has been as of late. Out of the first 8 games of the season, Wilson and the Broncos only won 3 of them. This is the same team that won the damn Super Bowl in 2015. How could it fall in such a short amount of time? To fans, it was all the fault of the star player of the team, Russell Wilson. Wilson recently acknowledged the social media criticism surrounding his recent performance. He said that he's aware of how fans feel at the moment, and he also understands why they feel that way. However, Wilson said that his main focus is making sure that he can work together with the team and turn things around. He said that the team will control what happens on the outside by playing better, and that's exactly what their focus should be on right now. Overall, it would be hard to ignore social media, considering pretty much everyone's lives revolve around it, and people can be super harsh when they're hiding behind a screen. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that the Broncos have the second worst offense in the NFL right now, and something desperately needs to change.
I think every game matters, obviously now. It always does. You got to have a playoff mentality right now. This is one of those things that you approach, this week, and understand that you're playing a great football team, the Tennessee Titans. They do a lot of great things across the board. We got to be at our best, and we got to bring our A game. And that's what we're looking forward to, is preparing at the highest level this week. The only thing that matters is today. All the other stuff down the road doesn't really matter. So at the end of the day, we got to have a great practice today. We got to make sure that today's practice is excellent at the highest level.
That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Russell Wilson is justified in not wearing a wristband? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and we will see you in the next one.